Bienvenidos and welcome everyone. We are the two dudes from Jalisco. I'm El Gallo. This is El Chivo.
You're watching the very first episode of Obsessions, and today's obsessive is filmmaker Mike Pecci.
All right, let's get obsessive. Senor Mike, it's a pleasure to have you on our humble podcast.
I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be here, man. I'm excited to be with you guys.
So Juan has been telling me a lot about you. When we discussed having this podcast and starting up, actually having a guest on board, he said, "I've got the perfect person," and here you are. So no pressure.
Now, I love being a guest. Usually I'm the host. It's great. I get to show up. I can fuck up your show a little bit.
More?
Hey, well, just gonna sprinkle some light fuck up on
Yeah,
it.
this will be the garnishing on top.
So, for those people out there who don't know who you are, would you mind just introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your background and what you do?
Sure. My name is Mike Pecci, and I have been a director now for like over 20 years. So I started in the business doing music videos. And so I was doing a lot of like heavy metal and hardcore music videos for bands like Killswitch Engage and Meshuggah. And then when the music industry shit the bed, I had to do commercials to stay afloat. But I had always wanted to be a director. I had gone to school for movies, and my passion and my love are horror films. And so I've been doing that. And I was doing that for quite some time in between doing the paid shit in order to stay afloat. And, these days I've been mostly doing the horror movie stuff and all my podcasts. And that's now I don't really have to do commercials anymore, which is kind of nice. I don't have to. I don't have to help some fucking old guy sell a warehouse full of shit. You know.
So, talk to us about your work with music videos. Like, how'd you get into that?
Well, years ago, the longer story is that I used to work in a music store when I was a kid, and I loved it. When I was a teenager, and I always wanted to have that job, and there was nothing cooler than suggesting music and hearing music for the first time and having like A&R reps show up with free concert tickets and free albums. And I fucking loved it. And I thought that I was going to be a radio DJ. I was like, all right, cool. I think I'll go to school to be a radio DJ. And my first show that I had was on like a 3 a.m. slot on like a college radio station. And the program manager walked in and he was like, all right, I'll tell you how to do it. We've labeled all the CDs. So at the top of the hour, you can play any of the CDs that have a green sticker on them. At the bottom of the hour, you can play any CDs that have a blue sticker on them. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? And so really quickly realized that, being a radio DJ sucked. And I would just happen to be taking a film course and fell in love with the fact that it was everything that I loved. It was what I love about music and introducing people and affecting people's emotions with sound. I love that. And then I was a comic book kid and drew comic books. And so it took all of that too. And so I went to school, and, at that time it was the late 90s. So we were obsessed with David Fincher and Spike Jonze and all of the directors that became directors from music videos. And so I was like, all right, cool. I'll do that shit. I'll be a music video director because I love it all. And then it'll transition me into being a director. And so that's kind of how I got into doing it. And then I had a business partner back in the day who was also in a pretty big band. So because of that, we were able to get great access. So next thing you know, I was on a pretty quick, rise of like, first shooting like hardcore bands like Agnostic Front and Sick of It All and like dudes like that. And then suddenly transitioning into doing like Fear Factory and then writing treatments for like Ozzy. And then we did like Czarface and Wu-Tang and all that kind of shit. So
You're dropping some pretty big names.
And now you're here.
We name drop. That's what we do.
That's what you do, right?
Yeah. But yeah. So those guys, I mean, music videos were fun. It was like was a cool way to sort of fuck around and like sort of learn a lot of new techniques and tricks, and then kind of learn how to deliver on schedule and how to work
Mm,
for clients. And then what was great about them is that the turnaround on that stuff's super fast. So you usually get a phone call to do a music video, and like 2 weeks later, you have to deliver everything, and then it's on the fucking internet, and then you're getting responses immediately from fans. And
Do you
it,
think? I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you think we need to explain to the crowd nowadays what is a music video?
these days, music videos are like 3 seconds long on TikTok, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
yeah,
usually someone pretending to be that person and
Oh man.
karaoke. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. You briefly touched on the fact that you were like you used to draw comic books.
Hmm.
So I imagine like you're familiar with like frame by frame, and that kind of got you.
Yeah, yeah. When I was a kid, I was an idiot. My mom was worried because I didn't read books. I hated reading books, and so she one day went to the drugstore or something and picked up a couple comic books and tossed them in front of me. And she's like, "At least read these. They have pictures in them." And I immediately fell in love with the format and the idea of using a single frame to sort of tell a story. And then what I found fascinating was how my brain filled in the blanks. So, like, if you saw Spider-Man run to the edge of the roof and they had him drawn like on the edge of the roof, and then the next frame is him like swinging through the city, your brain fills in the blanks. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, I imagine what he looks like when he jumps off and does all that. And so that was very useful when you're getting into movie stuff,
yeah,
because you're then trying to read a script, and then in your head you're not just seeing random images, and you're like I actually see shit in the language of movies. So like
yeah,
I'll see shots and all that kind of shit.
yeah. That's cool.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. I You said your brain fills in the rest. Um, how much of that is still in movies today? Because I never realized that, and I can't think of a movie where I had to fill in, like, use my imagination, because it feels like everything's already like shot, like what they want you to think and feel, it's already shot. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing left for your imagination.
Oh,
Well, I mean, it depends on who's making it, right? I mean, we're currently in the step up to the trough and eat like little piggies time period for movies and content right now, where everybody has to tell you every fucking thing that's going to happen. And then a character will walk into the next scene and go, "All right, let me just recap everything that you fucking did."
yeah,
The trick is it's fascinating. It's a little bit different, right? I always A great example of this is special effects. So if you're doing movie special effects, and you have like like the thing, like a face exploding or something happening, right? The longer you have it on screen, the more that the audience can call bullshit. The more the audience can see it
Mm,
and go, "Oh, I don't believe the blood doesn't," and and so then it makes it less scary. The trick to being a great horror director is knowing to just put enough on screen so that your eyes go, "Is that a knife going into," and then you cut it, because then the audience member fills in the blanks.
right, right,
The
right.
truth of the matter is you're filling in the blanks with your own life experiences, which you're going to connect to more than if I left it on screen and you see some dumb blade go into someone and like blood come gushing out.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So it's there. It's just a little bit different. Like comic books, you're relying upon the format says, well, the audience is going to fill in this stuff. But
Right.
in movies, it's about dialing things back to
yeah,
sort of do that same thing. And the best format for it is books, like novels, right? Because you're basically doing the entire thing. And that's why when someone sees a movie that's based on a book, they go, "That's not as good as the fucking book." Well, of course not, because you built that book with your uncle and all these different people that
yeah.
you've made them those characters, which you're going to connect with more than like whether or not you like, Gerald Butler.
That's kind of deep, because you said you fill in the blank with your experiences. So if you had like a shitty life and saw some shitty shit,
Yeah.
all that is tied to your work, which it's kind of crazy. There's that direct line to the director or the producer or whatever. I never thought about it that way. That's crazy.
Well, dude, it's like I say this on my show all the time, and like the reason why we met and the reason why we got along is that I like to cook. I do a lot of cooking. I do a lot of barbecuing, and it's the thing I do to keep myself sane when I have to wait fucking like 7 years to have a movie get made. And I feel like making a meal. And I just made a big meal yesterday. Like making a meal is like doing a mini movie. It's all the same techniques.
Mm.
Like you're using you get to use more stuff than I do. You get to not only use sight and sound, but you also get to use smell and taste. And so you're just crafting an experience for an audience, essentially. Um,
Right.
and it's all the same shit, man. And what's fascinating about cooking is that you're bringing a lot of emotional experience to it. You're bringing a lot of memories to it.
Mm.
And then if you're incredibly talented about it, you're also fucking with nostalgia and you're fucking with someone else's memories when you start to put these things together. So if someone takes a bite of your taco, they sit there and go, "Holy shit, I remember the one day that my dad wanted to hang out with me and we went out and fucking, you know what I mean?" And
Yeah.
Yeah,
suddenly that taco becomes more than just meat and tortilla, you know?
that is crazy because then it must be frustrating for someone like you because you are gonna get that crowd, and I've seen it on your comments when they when they talk about your short film and they're like, "Oh, it sucked because the ending sucked." They totally ignored like all the work,
Sure.
like the
Yeah.
beginning of the movie, the middle, and the end, and they base it off just the ending part.
Yeah.
And it's the same with cooking. You always get that, the people that are like, "Oh, my grandma does it better," or in my country is done a little different, X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then from you just go, oh, you could totally see the strings. You could.
Yeah. 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 But also call up your grandmother, go have her make it. Oh, shit. Oh shit, she's dead. Well,
Well, here's the taco.
Yeah.
it's close enough. All right.
So
But it reminded you of her anyways. So
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a
Yeah.
question about that. So like, so you're messing around with the tools that you have are images and you have sound, right? And
Mhm.
I noticed because Juan shared your short film, 12 kilometers, with me, and I noticed that like, so like just how in comic books you have one image and then the brain is sort of like piecing things together. I noticed at least in that film you have a lot of like tight shots on the I'm not going to spoil it for people who haven't seen it, but you have a lot of tight shots on that substance, that dark substance,
Yeah.
or what have you. And so like you're also, I feel like maybe in film you're telling multiple layered stories, right? They're filling in the gaps with what is this thing? Like they're bringing their own questions to
Yep.
it, right? And with regards to connecting it with food, how we have like taste and smell. Um, can you also mess with like textures and sound to sort of
Hmm.
give people an idea of what that smells like or what that might taste like?
I always say like I try to get it so that people could smell the scene. And it doesn't make any sense, but there's a lot of tricks that you can do to make it feel so atmospheric that when you're watching it, you can literally go, "I know what it smells like there." And I like that's always my goal whenever I'm setting up scenes or sequences is trying to build the atmosphere enough so that way you feel like you're physically there and you can feel the cold and you can feel that stuff. And there are a lot of subliminal filmmaking is all about manipulation and subliminal manipulation and psychology. Really, it's all like a lot of these different elements. So there are certain things that will make you feel cold if you see them or if you hear them. Like if you hear something, your body will go like, "Ugh." If it's like a bristling wind or if it's the crackling of ice. Like if you hear ice cubes tinkling around in
yeah.
in a can or something like that, and you have some sort of visuals, then you're going to feel cold. You're going to associate cold with that. And then you can go even deeper and like there are colors that associate specific things, like certain colors psychologically make you feel certain ways. You can be made hungry. I forget the color profile. I don't know if red makes you hungry or it was yellow. I can't
I
remember.
think like for me, all colors make me hungry.
Yeah. That's because you're painting with food, man. That's why you're painting with food.
It's funny you well, not funny, but you mentioned, like, the ice cubes. I saw TikTok, and they make you close your eyes, and you have to identify if they're pouring cold water or hot water.
Okay.
And everybody gets it right because you can identify hot water being poured versus cold water.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's cool, man. Yeah, I love that shit, man. That's like that's part of the game, right? Like the same way you're fucking with salt and sweet, I'm fucking with sound and visuals and just there's something fun about especially with horror. I think that's why I like horror so much is that I can go off the rails. Like there's not rules, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
if you're doing, Texas style barbecue and there's all these fucking rules, like old school rules that you're supposed to follow, but I love going off the rails whether it's food or filmmaking because you're subverting expectation and if you're doing it right you're leading someone down a path and they go I know what this is and then they don't and that sense
Right.
of surprise that they get from it is exhilarating and there's a rush and like
right,
that's
right.
Thank you
I
for that because I really detest lazy writing, lazy filmmaking, the jump scares,
yeah
the poor introduction of a character who just happens to like tell you who they are. Like, well, I've been a doctor for 20 years in such and such hospital. And it's like, you can't do that visually.
Yeah, dude. I mean, but there's also a studio involved. The other thing that sucks about when you're making a movie, unlike if you're doing a painting or if you're making a meal, although if you have like, I guess if you have like a restaurant owner partner and he's up your ass, but like you have to deal with the money. And so at the end of the day, there are people sitting in a room going, all right, we need to make sure this appeals to everybody. And, in the test screening, people didn't get that this person may have had an alcoholic father. So maybe you have to have a character show up and go, well, it must have sucked having an alcoholic father. And you go, that doesn't fucking matter though. And they go, no, it does matter. And then so that's a lot of the game that you're seeing right now. Because big corporations are basically making decisions on all these movie
Mm.
things and they're trying to make back, you know, if they're putting down a $300 million or even $150 million to make a superhero movie, they want at least 350 back. And so the only way you're ever going to do that is that you have to, you know, you got to put fucking chicken wings and cheeseburgers on your menu. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way that you're going to make the money unless you go into that restaurant. It's got fucking potato skins on the menu. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing with movies, man. It's the
Yeah,
same.
you got it one. Now we got to put cheeseburgers on the menu.
Yeah, we already got the wings. We already have the
We
wings.
already have wings. Yeah.
It drives me crazy. It's like, oh, fucking chicken wings again, huh? Great.
So, how do you find the financing for your projects?
I don't know. It depends on the project. It depends on the thing, and the bigger you get, the harder it gets. We're still trying to get money for the feature versions of like 12 km, and then the like Who's There is another one that we're working on, and we've got a new one too that we're doing right now. So it's a game, and there are so many different things that are affecting whether or not you get the money. Like it's timing. Like, do you come
Mhm.
out with something and then there's some sort of huge social thing that happened, and now that's fucking up your chances now. And so now you have to take that project that everybody was excited about and put it on the shelf. And then, like, fucking 5 years from now, someone shows up and they go, hey, man, did you have this Russian fucking thing? So, like, I'll tell you this, man, it's the dumbest idea in the world to become a filmmaker and get in this business if you're trying to make money because it's just stupid. You
You
can't rely
know,
on anything.
I love this conversation already because so Juan and I are always talking about food, music, and more. Like that's been for years now and how things connect, right? And
Yeah.
if you ask Juan his opinion on becoming a chef, he'll say it's the dumbest thing you could probably ever go after. Don't do it, right? So why do we do that? Why do we go after something we know is just madness?
I like to get kicked in the balls. I don't know. Like,
Masochism and
yeah, yeah,
sadist.
yeah, man. I don't know. It's stupid. The truth is that and I'm sure you could say the same thing about music and about food, is that uh, there's like I only direct like 5% of my life. The rest of my life is me trying to get people to let me do it. And so in that
I like
5%,
that. I like that.
I mean, I hate it. In that in that
Philosophically, philosophically.
I get you, I get you. But in that 5%, when you do it and it's right and you're there and you're pulling it together and you're having sort of like that, your body takes over and you're just doing it without thinking and it's just so smooth and you feel like you're in the eye of a hurricane and you're just sort of looking around going, this is it. And it's like it's like crack, you know? Like it's like, and then the rest of the time, us filmmakers are all these. Like, we might as well be sleeping next to the L.A. River. You know, we're all just like, "Give me more," and we're just waiting for the next crack shipment to come out. So,
So
but
what's the move now in the film industry? Like obviously I know it's easier to do your own films and not have a studio back you, but that doesn't necessarily mean like your films are gonna make it to theaters, right? Or anything like that. So
no,
what's the channel? Like what do you have to try and always be mainstream, or is that your goal, or do you wanna be independent and find a way to just be yourself forever?
the easy answer to that is that it's a bit of both, right? So, like, you can't just have, and I'm terrible at this. You can't just have one thing going. And unfortunately, with films, it requires every ounce of your fucking attention and devotion to do one. But now you're juggling, like you're trying to get like 5 or 6 things going to see which one happens. And a handful of them are going through the studio system, and then a handful of them are on the independent level. And so you're just trying to see which one kicks. The truth is, if you're going to go through whatever sort of studio system, you're going to have your shit processed and it's going to be filtered down in specific ways if you're asking for a certain amount of money. Like if you can walk in there and go like, hey, I've got the new Paranormal Activity, give me $500,000 and I'll set up a camera and not do anything. And then like that'll happen, then that's great. But you've seen my movies, like my stuff and my style requires something more. It's bigger,
Right.
feels bigger. And so you know, for me, I know that the stuff that I make that is on an indie level is going to, it's like music. It's like Metallica, right? Like we're working on a movie right now that's an indie movie that I know is going to be like the Ride the Lightning album. Like it's going to be early Metallica and people are going to fucking love it. It's going to be great. And then, there's another piece that I'm doing that is like load.
Oh no.
It's like, like we'll go to the studios. That'll be, some covers of, Don Henley or whatever the fuck he was.
Are you ever scared that you're gonna be known for the wrong thing, and specifically the thing you hate doing, but you do it to survive, and then that's gonna be the thing that gets you where you wanna be?
Yeah. That's why I say no all the time. That's why I say no all the time. It's yeah. I mean, like there's this, especially with horror, right? You see it. Like I don't want to shit talk anything.
But let's do it. Let's do it.
But you see, like the new swimming pool movie that you're seeing
Oh,
trailers for everywhere,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? So that comes about from a short film, like my shorts. You do a proof of concept, and you either do a crazy batshit proof of concept like I do, or you do something that you think is sellable. And there's a specific formula for that stuff. It's like, is this like Lights Out? Do you turn the light off, turn the light on, there's a monster there, do you turn the light off? Like it's the easiest thing to sell to people. And there is a specific formula for that shit. So like swimming pool, you jump in the water, you come up, there's a monster. You jump back in the water, there isn't a monster.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
it's the formula for fucking, you know, it's buffalo wings. It's the
With
formula.
ranch. With ranch.
Yeah, with ranch. Oh shit! They're fucking. Oh, what is the hot new move right now? Oh, the sriracha wings. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Spicy fucking. But yeah, man, I don't know. I'm on the rant there, but it's tough. You're trying to sort your way through it. You're always looking for good ideas, and and I have trouble just doing a bullshit pitch because I know that I'm going to be stuck with it. I know
Yeah, yeah,
I'm going to be on set, and there's nothing that you know what I mean. You're just going to be like, all right, how cool can we make it look when you turn that light off again? You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
And then I'll be in the edit room, and then someone's going to just go like, "You're the guy that turns lights on and off." And I know you can break out of that because Dave Sandberg, who directed that movie, he's a great director. We both have the same management. And he went on smartly to do Annabelle, and then he went on to do Shazam, and he went on to do all that stuff. Right place, right time, really smart, talented guy. So I'm full of shit because he was able to do that right and play that game. But there's a piece of me that feels like he's probably also exhausted of playing the game right now.
Right, of course. I can totally see that.
Yeah. Yeah. So not shit talking anybody. It's just the way that this business works. And you talk to any fucking there's a ton of us out there. There's a ton of white dude horror film directors that want to get into the business. And you talk to all of us that are all doing the same shit. They're sitting around going like, what if you open the dishwasher and there's a fucking demon in there? And then the studio exec like, is it a deity? Like maybe it's connected to, and you're just like, fucking put a bullet in my face. Yeah, that's most of it.
And then we have four people come in with packs on their backpacks and
Yeah,
zap
but they no longer can be wisecracking adults for ladies. They have to be fucking kids, which drives me nuts. It's like I don't want to go watch a movie with like preteen kids running around with proton packs.
Yeah.
I saw the first movie where fucking Dan Aykroyd went, "These are dangerous." I
Yeah.
don't believe a kid can carry it. And it's like,
Oh,
okay.
man.
So there are different types of horror films, and what is your favorite that you like to consume? And well, just that.
I like Well, I mean, it turns out I'm a cosmic horror director. I didn't realize I was, but I like psychological movies and I like scary, tonally adventure horror pieces. So, like, The Thing is high on my list. The Exorcist is obviously high on my list.
Oh,
But
yeah.
even more recently, I like the Pope's Exorcist. It
Mhm.
was great. Or Alien, or um, It Follows, a more recent movie. I just I like movies that take me places. I
Mhm.
like films that take me and introduce me to a bunch of different new characters and locations change. I like that shit because I think more than anything, what appeals to me about filmmaking is that you're getting someone's specific point of view. So a director or a writer or a writer director, it's their POV. They're taking this pink shit that sits between your ears and they're processing their life experiences with something. And it's the same thing when you go to a great food truck or restaurant. Like when I'm looking for a menu or music, when I'm looking for a menu or if I'm pulling an album, I want someone's opinion. I want someone's perspective. And that's what I like about good horror. I think that horror movies at one point in times were subversively talking about issues that existed, whether it was racism or if it was, gender issues. Like all that stuff has existed since horror was created. Like feeling like an outcast, you go back and look at Frankenstein, like all that sort of stuff subconsciously was happening and subliminally was happening. These days, that's part of the fucking formula where they like pry open that tuna can and they're like, what kind of social issues can
Yeah.
but
I love horror that is like simple, and I guess it goes to like my taste in food as well and music. If it's simpler, it's better for me. Like The Exorcist, like there was really no boogeyman or no anything that you had to like worry about. It was a girl and whatever was happening to her, and you had to like you know there's no other option but being scared because if you walk into your bedroom at night and it's dark, we're all scared of the dark one way or another. And there's that chance of what if that girl was there, right? It's just a little girl.
yeah.
If you create a boogie monster that's like, I don't know, from Mars, then you know that's not likely to happen.
Sure.
So I love horror like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. You're able to connect with it.
I like psychological thrillers. Like my favorite all time is The Others, because it's leading you down this path. It's like this is the idea, and you're thinking they're being haunted, and then suddenly at the end of the movie, you're like, wait a minute! Like they flipped the whole the script on you, and you're having to put pieces together that you were like, oh, this whole time this was going on, and I thought this was going on.
Hmm. Great stuff, man. I love a classic one from the 80s is Jacob's Ladder. I love Jacob's Ladder. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that.
Um,
I don't
You
know.
should see it. It's
Okay,
amazing. Would you write it down? And
that sounds familiar.
there's a remake that sucks. So don't see the remake. Back and you watch the original Jacob's Ladder. It's a fucking trip. It's wild. It's crazy, and you have no idea what you're in for.
I
And
feel like
by the time you're done, you're just like, and you don't even know. You don't get a clear answer. And by the end of it, you're like, is this what I fucking is this? And it's a great movie.
love that. Love that. So
Jacob's Ladder.
the last time we talked, you had just moved to LA, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So how's LA treating you?
Great. I love it, man. Like me and my fiance moved out here 5 months before the fucking pandemic. And we love it. Like it's better for us as far as the business is concerned. We have so much more access to great talent, great stuff. I have movies that are in development which require me to just at a whim be able to go have beers with people and talk about stuff. And
Hmm.
so all that's been very great. And then in general, because we came out from the East Coast, so we're Boston people. And so I worked out there for 19 years as a director, and my whole mentality was like, fuck LA. Fuck, I was just like, LA's full of fake pieces of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
you're not wrong.
so when I came across country, I was surprised by a couple things. One, I was surprised because I'm on the east side of LA, you go to the west side, and the west side's full of a lot of fake pieces of shit.
Yeah.
But on the east side, it's very blue collar, it's very down to earth, and I like it a lot. And then the thing that really blew my mind was the food, like the food scene in Los Angeles. And everybody says this, but it's true. The food scene here is fucking crazy, and like just the generational sort of like melting pot and the blending of cultures, and then the cuisine that's made from the blending of those cultures. And then also this is where the entire country gets all its fucking produce. And so like all of that really changed my opinion on Los Angeles, because I'm a food guy. And so I mean, the one thing that sucks out here is Italian. Los Angeles. There's two things that suck out here. They, this. I know I'm going to get shit for this. Fuck your pizzas out here. That's one. Also, what
Well,
is?
there goes question 2, 3, and 4.
Well, here's the other one that's going to piss people off. What is with your fucking bagels out here? The bagels in Los
Oh yeah.
are the worst, and I feel like it doesn't make sense to me. There's all these like, oh, it's the fucking water, it's this, it's that. It's like, no, these are Kaiser rolls. Like, why are you making fucking Kaiser rolls when they should be chewy fucking bagels? I don't know.
So there was a list published maybe about a year or two ago. No, I think it was under a year ago. Uh Bagels in LA apparently are superior to East Coast, and then pizza in LA is superior to East Coast. So my question was like, what do you think about that? Is that true? But
Who
you
wrote it?
answered that.
Who wrote it? That's what
uh, I'm not gonna mention it because you'll find it. You'll find it. Just Google it.
Oh, see,
Yeah,
it's all about perspective, man. And
yeah,
I
of
think
course.
that I look, I will not be an East Coast guy and say like, "Hey, man, the Vietnamese food is so much better on the East Coast," because it's fucking not. I won't say like I have some of the best Mexican or tacos or any of that stuff on the East Coast, because I won't. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Fuck off if you're like, like the Italian out here is so much. Dude, I went to a fucking Italian because I'm Italian, right? And a lot of my cooking and everything comes from that. And I know how to cook Tuscan, easy shit. And so like you try to go out and have a good meal, and a buddy of mine was like, "Oh, this place has got the best meatballs. Right off the bat, I rolled my eyes. I go, okay, yeah. It, like, this has got the best meatballs you've ever had. I go, okay, all right. So we go to this place. It was like fucking $6 a meatball. And I was just like, what the fuck? Oh my God.
Probably shipped from Italy, probably or something.
I don't know. So yeah, dude, I don't know.
That's cool. I mean, you're digging LA, which is it's hard to find people that dig LA once. I think the trend is like come to LA, talk shit about LA, and then still stay here, and and then claim that the East Coast is way better. But
No,
I'm glad you found
dude,
your way here.
dude, I love it, man. Like we went home a couple months ago, and I'm like, this isn't my home anymore. Like we went back to Boston, and
Wow.
Boston is like it's like everywhere in this country right now. It's being overly developed, and there are all these
Mm,
development places that are showing up and building like these condo stacks, and they're just sort of destroying and taking out whatever existed before it. And so, like, Boston's not the same Boston that I grew up in. Like the thing I loved about that city when I was younger is that I could go sit at a bar like Charlie's Kitchen, which is in Harvard. You can go sit at that bar upstairs on a Tuesday night and sit next to a janitor and the fucking guy that owned the company. And we would all talk together and it would be like this really cool hangout kind of thing. And now it's just fucking yuppies and like the whole place has just been destroyed. And the prices and the real estate have been just like just destroyed. Um, and so it's not even it doesn't even have fucking character anymore. Like
yeah,
so that's one thing I love about Los Angeles is that there's so much character out here and there are so many neighborhoods. The only other place in the country that I feel like also kind of does it is Manhattan. Like New York does the same thing where you still have family run bodegas. You still have this culture and I think don't quote me on this, but I think it's really great that Los Angeles eventually was like, oh, we're going to lax on street vendors. And finally, it's become a thing where you can kind of do it. And so you've just got this really great cultural thing that happens here. And I find it like being my job is understanding people and hanging out with people and telling stories of people. And so why the fuck wouldn't you like a place like this? Because it's just
yeah.
there's so many weird fucking people and there's so many like fun interesting folks and I you know if I get an offer to go have a family meal with some strangers you bet your ass I will go, man, because it's such a rare thing here. It's like, oh shit, you just don't want to go to McDonald's like your grandmother's making some shit. Yeah, fuck yeah, let's go do it.
Yeah. What's been your favorite thing about LA so far?
Well, I'm not one of those assholes that says the weather because I'm not a fucking baby about it. I would say uh, the thing I love the most about it is the history. There's so much history here. And every time I find myself in some weird neighborhood, or if I find myself in some like Hollywood spot or some random bar, and being a movie nerd, I get real crazy about it. We were drinking in what's the name of that bar in Burbank? No, what was it called? The one that they shot Heat in. Blue Room, yeah. So
Hmm.
we were in Burbank and we went to this bar called Blue Room and just some random place. And that's where they shot a lot of the Heat scenes in for Michael Mann's Heat with
Oh yeah.
Gino and De Niro.
Yeah.
And you're just sort of sitting in that space going like, holy fuck. And like you get down to like some of the older Hollywood spots like Musso and Frank's and like you watch like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and they're just the references of all these different places and that stuff to me is really fun. I forget. I went up to this old. I think it's called like old restaurant or old town or something. It's like it's up over. It's in the mountains over Calabasas, and it's like this. It used to be this old post office that they made into a bar slash restaurant, and that's where like Steve McQueen would drink. That's where like Jason Momoa hangs out all the time. Like down the street from that is like Steve McQueen's racetrack and so, like, as far as like Hollywood's concerned, I'm real nerdy about that shit. I
Right.
love finding those spots. But then the other thing that I find like incredibly fascinating is, how LA is really spread out and sprawled out, but we're also really sort of stacked up on each other. And you have it's not as big as you think. And so like you're going from like like Philippine town, or and then you're jumping into like Koreatown, and then you're jumping into like, you know, downtown LA. And I just I fucking love the mix of it, man. It's
Yeah.
really crazy. It's like the Chex Mex of fucking people.
I like that. I like that. Did
Yeah.
you ever get to try menudo? I remember I suggested you try it.
No, I didn't get a
You
chance to.
still haven't. Okay,
No, I
we
know.
got to make something happen.
I'm a piece of shit. Yeah. No. Yeah. And we're supposed to, you're supposed to like, you know, invite me to things like that are
Oh,
cool.
so now I'm the piece of
Yeah.
shit. Uh,
Yeah. 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 It's a two-way street, man. There are two things. Uh,
it's been so crazy. Leo will tell you.
Yeah,
The
don't
restaurant
get me
business
involved, man. I don't
is
want to be a piece of shit.
the restaurant business is like,
Yeah.
it pulls us in all directions all the time.
yeah.
Hence why we're doing the podcast now
Yeah.
versus
Mhm. So you guys have a like an actual brick and mortar now, right?
yeah, yeah. We just opened up in Pasadena about 2 months ago.
Fuck yeah, man.
Yeah,
That's
so it's finally like our like our permanent location.
Come try the wings. They're good.
now, is it, I mean, it must be more stressful for you, right? Because now you've got a bunch more overhead as opposed to when you were just doing stuff out of a food truck, right? Or is it about the same?
Um, Here's the thing: my stress doesn't come with like, are we making money or anything like that. My stress is like when I'm creating a new dish or when I have a deadline of that sort. Like I got to create something by a certain time.
Mhm.
Um, and even saying this, I can't believe it, but it doesn't stress me out. It
Hmm.
just takes up a lot of my time. I'm not stressed out at all. Like I would be the first one to cry because I have anxiety, so something
Right.
like that would typically trigger it, but I don't know. I guess I'm living my dream, so
Great,
it's
dude.
not stressful at all.
That's great, man. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so is that your thing? Is that what you love the most, is sort of coming up with new dishes, or is that the most stressful thing for you, is coming up with recipes?
No, I love coming up with new recipes, but it's one of those things like when you discover a new toy as a kid and all you want to do is play with that toy until something else takes your attention away. It's kind of like that. So if I create something, I'm gonna write that for a long time, and then once I get bored, then I'll start kind of tinkering with stuff. But
Well,
I
that's
like, I like seeing people try it and see if they understand what I'm trying to do and if they enjoy it. And so every time that happens, like it just makes me want to do it more. And it
yeah.
just,
Yeah. I mean, this is something that I try to explain to folks. You know, I'm a pretty good like home cook, but I don't do it as much as you guys do, as you do, man. So like there is a big difference between you being able to, like, it would be like you picking up a camera and going, I got a couple really great shots and I kind of know how to use a camera, kind of know how to shoot some stuff. It's really great. Or being that person that has the 10,000 hours on, like, not only do I know how to turn this camera on with my eyes closed, but I've figured out all these different steps. And then every time I turn this camera on, I'm making a slight adjustment. I'm making these adjustments to it. And so whenever I'm cooking for somebody and they go, this is almost as good as a restaurant, I go, well, thank you. Because those motherfuckers are doing it every fucking day, all the time. I just showed up and did it. Like,
yeah.
and so I have nothing but the most respect for the rhythm and the routine and the process of of taking a recipe and developing it and pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, and then knowing not only is it's your work, but creating a recipe that can be put on the line that can also just be replicated at that scale, but then also dealing with food providers and like what's happening in that moment, and all those things are directly affecting your art and your taste and your flavor profile. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, and it's a little easier now because also, we have the ability to hire more people, and you're also showing them how to do what you do,
Yeah.
and then keeping that balance of matching it and all that. I mean, there's an easy aspect to that, but also I guess I wouldn't say stressful, but more like a word, like is it going to change if the day I step out? It creates another problem that doesn't exist yet. Like if
Mhm.
I step out, is the restaurant going to operate the same, or is that sauce going to taste the same, or
Yeah.
But unlike with you, like with filming, you can't, if you don't direct it, then you don't direct it.
Well,
There's no other
well,
There
way
has to
to.
there has to be something similar though. Like if you're used to filming and then editing it yourself, and then you're
Mm.
casting off, you're giving the editing portion to someone else, and you're like, are they gonna capture my vision? Are they gonna?
yeah, it's weird, right? Because this is there is this myth that there are genius directors, and it's bullshit. I think it's marketing. My joke is like you don't plop out of your mom with an idea of how to use lenses. Like you're not born with these techniques. And it's the truth is that when you're younger, I think insecurity is a big deal, and imposter syndrome is
Mm,
huge, and so I think when you're younger, the way that you're trying to disguise your insecurities and your inexperience is sort of arrogance. It can be arrogance, and it can be like, this is my way, this is the highway, and this is how I've done it, and this is what I do, and you have to do it this way. And I was that guy, and I found that the process of making stuff to be incredibly lonely and boring. And the longer that you do this, the more you realize that you start to get known for your mistakes. You start to get known for how you handled shit that isn't going the way it's supposed to, like
mm,
how you pivoted. Like that stuff starts to define you, and people go like, "This is your style, like your style," and I'm like, "That was my fuck up," And so like you're trying to process that stuff, and then you realize like, "Oh, I don't have control over anything." And so then you're like, all right, well, when I work with people, I want to work with people who also know how to fucking pivot. If we're all going to get in a submarine that's got holes in it and go into the ocean, I want to make sure that these people aren't going to fucking panic. And so you're casting yourself with your keys or your line cooks or whoever it is that can handle that stuff and pivot with it. And then when you find that group of people that you are comfortable with, you really open it up to them because it's a surprise game at that point. And so as a director, it's less about having all the answers and more about just being the tastemaker. So when people show up with plates and they go, you want parsley on this or do you want cilantro on this? You go, the movie calls for cilantro. You know what I mean? Like,
mm,
I'm not the one that was like, go get parsley and cilantro. So
yeah.
then you're just sort of tastemaking and you're the last person finishing the plate before it goes out. You're the first person coming up with the idea, but then you have a line of people that are doing all this work. Um, and then the movies are better, and then the experience is better. And you're not you're not up on stage at the end going, I made this. And then right after that, you're unemployed and nothing happens for your life. And you go, well, what the fuck did I do with my life? But at this point, playing the game that way, I have so much more fun making movies when I'm working with people and being collaborative with people. And then, the ideas become bigger because it isn't just me sitting with a piece of paper going like, I think the guy should have a limp. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm working with people who are like, my dad's best friend actually had a limp, and he had a limp because of this. And I'm going to bring a lot of that character into this. And I'm like, yeah, go for it, dude. Cause I had no idea. Um, anyway, long tangent on that shit,
No,
but
no, that's crazy. I just love how we all do different things. Leo is an amazing musician, and you're in filming, and I'm cooking. Yet it all like it's the same life lessons. I guess you can say it's the same philosophical views. It's all of that is just almost identical.
Yeah, that was pretty. That was incredibly insightful. Actually,
well, dude, I mean, I don't want to be that asshole that's plugging my own podcast, but that's
No,
why
plug it.
on my show, that's why I talk to all these folks because we all have a lot in common. I think, and you'll find this commonality running not just with music and food, but you'll find this commonality running with acting and artists, but you'll find it with people that build, custom cars. Like, it's just anybody that decides that they're going to leave a formulaic path of like punching in, boss telling me how to do stuff, me just doing that. And I'm not shitting on those folks. It's a fucking a blessing to have a job like that these days that has consistency and reliability, and hopefully whatever company you're working for isn't fucking you over, and you're able to be full time and have benefits. Like that stuff is amazing. It's just that when you decide that you're not going to do what they told you in school to do, and you're going to do something different, there's no fucking rules, and there's no sense of gravity, and there's no consistency, and you have to make your own consistency. You have to motivate yourself. Like that is the hardest part of being an entrepreneur, is the fact
Yeah.
that the only person you're answering to is your fucking self. If you fail on it, then you go hungry. And like you did that. You
Yeah.
don't have someone else that you can go, well, this asshole cut my salad. You know what I mean? It's you. It's you. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I was playing fucking PlayStation all week. I should have been fucking writing something. So like I don't know. Like I've learned that through doing this show, my podcast for 6 years now, and the more that I talk to people, whether it's just, a grip or a line cook, or if it's like, a big time director or a big time actor, everybody feels the same way. They're all insecure about stuff. They're all processing their insecurities, and they're all finding life and love in collaboration.
Mm.
Yeah, we all want the same thing, right? And we're seeking it through different mediums.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you motivate yourself?
It
Bills.
depends. Well, it depends, man. And I still have this in me. When I was younger, before I did this stuff, in my transition from working in a music store, I also was a mechanic, and I was an airplane mechanic, and I worked with my hands, and I painted houses, and I did all that stuff because I loved that. I loved the crew mentality. I've always loved like hanging out with a bunch of guys and doing a job, and that was a lot of fun for me. But when I decided that I didn't want to have bloody knuckles from like scraping my, trying to pull a fucking oil filter out of an engine that shouldn't be built that tightly, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do the scary thing, which is be an artist and try to build my own business. My mantra then was like, every day I'd wake up and go, what have you done today to earn the fact that you're not doing
Mm.
that other stuff? Like, how are you earning today? Tom Hanks earn this before he dies. Fucking Saving Private Ryan. So like that was like every day for me for years, and that sense of anxiety is deeply rooted. And from that anxiety, it forced me to do a lot of great stuff. It forced me to be like always on and always going and always thinking about it. And then I hit like middle age, and I found that anxiety was being counterintuitive and stressful. And I found myself just going like, why am I beating myself up all the fucking time? Like I've earned this already. So now what? Like, how do I do this in a healthier way? Because I found that me trying to force it, I was just banging my head against the wall and creating shit most of the time. Um, and so these days, motivation, it's a mix. Like this week, I'm feeling it where I'm like, you gotta sit down and you gotta figure out this movie thing, um, and stop being so distracted with podcasts. Uh, but but then there's a piece of me that really just enjoys being able to do a bit of everything, and because my love ultimately is people, which I've come to realize
Mm.
as an older dude, is that I love people and I love being around people, and my liver my liver hates me for with people, and my cholesterol hates me for hanging out with people, but I just love fucking people, man.
What about it do you love about people?
It's we like this is a new way of putting things. I think I've always loved camaraderie, right? And I've always loved like hanging out with folks for the first time, finding that trust, cutting through their bullshit. And that's something that East Coasters are known for. That's why we're typically called assholes, is
Mm.
that, some guy shows up and he's getting in your personal space. It's like, what the fuck do you want? And we're not saying that because it's like, get the fuck out of here. It's just like, lower your defenses immediately when you communicate with me, because I want to know who you are.
Mm.
Uh, and that's very much an East Coast thing where you give someone shit to knock them off their pedestal, knock them off their like false facade, you know, Instagram filter, and have them, you know, and then when they're like, oh, and then you go, no, 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 you're cool, man, you're cool. Like I want to know that person. I try to do that a little bit more gentle now that I'm out here on the web. But I really enjoy learning from people, and I really enjoy, you know, that moment where like you just meet someone and you don't stop talking. It's like falling in love with somebody where you're out on a first date and you look at your watch and suddenly you've closed in the restaurant and they're slipping you the bill and you've been there for 4.5 hours and you didn't realize it because
Mm.
you've just been, you know, gabbing away and talking. Because you learn a lot about yourself. You learn about like how to process life and how to process things. And um, I love that shit, man. And those memories just stick with you. And you know, you end up on your deathbed at some point. You're not looking back. For me, I'm not looking back going like, hey, remember when I did that Kill Switch Engage video? I'm like, hey, remember when we did do that video, but we traveled up and down the coast of California 5 times and we went to this strip club and we were hanging out with this piano player on a cliff, and like that kind of stuff stays with you forever, you know?
That's a great answer, man.
Yeah,
That's the reason why we love doing this.
yeah,
Uh, n- I've also discovered that I used to think I hated people,
Yeah.
but it's not so. You just need to dig a little deeper into their lives, and then you know you automatically understand what they're going through.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude. And then being a guy currently, right? Because of the way the world is changing, being a guy now, you know, I come from a generation, I'm sure you guys do too, where you know, you weren't allowed to show emotion. And if you were showing emotion, it's weakness. And then most of the guy hangout stuff is kind of like wolf packy, you know, like you
Yeah,
show up and you're like, who's the alpha? Who's the funny guy? Who's the weak one? Um, that's you know the way it's always been. It still is. But these days, whenever I'm doing the show and I'm talking with dudes, it ends up becoming this wild therapy session now because
yeah.
we're in this mode where we're talking about how we feel and we're processing how we're feeling, and we're trying to do it in a safe way that still retains some sort of masculinity but also is you know, a bit healthier than like just, you know, I know this sucks, I'll just put my head down and I'll deal with it for the rest of my life until I blow up and I shoot my wife. You know what I mean? So like it's good, it's good.
What's changed? What do you think changed that?
I, you know, we've been kind of bullied into it, I think, to a certain extent. I think that there's a sense of the culture currently wanting men to change, and you hear toxic masculinity as a thing that's sent all over the place. And I think there is a lot of toxic masculinity out there, but I think also people will define what I think is just sort of healthy masculinity as toxic masculinity.
Yeah,
And so it's a different climate, and there's a sense of relief that comes with it, right? Because I don't know if you guys had the same deal, but when you're coming up, you are brought up as being taught that you're the provider, that being taught that you're the person that has to make this thing happen. And the way my brain works and a lot of guys that I know, we're problem solvers. And so if someone comes in with something and says like, my car got towed, I don't want to sit. I'm not going to sit there and go like, "Oh, that's terrible. Come here, give me a hug." My first thoughts are like, "All right, where did it get towed? You probably need to get some cash because you might get a deal on getting it out of the lot. Let's get you over there and let's get this done quickly." Like that's the problem solving mode, and that I think that's what makes me a good director. But um, these days, it's you know, oh, you know, let me do a post online about how my car got towed, and then I'll talk about how I'm feeling about it, and then I don't even know where do I go to get it towed. And then if they ask you, and then they go, well, "Are you mansplaining that to me?" I go, "Well, you asked." I'm just gender explaining it to you.
just
You know, so I think it's healthy. I think the world's a healthier place when people are feeling comfortable and confident to talk about things. And I think it's really great that guys can start to talk emotionally about stuff. because there really hasn't been an outlet for them to do so. And maybe we'll have less, Hitlers out there, fucking crazy guys because they don't have the ability to talk about how they're feeling emotionally. So I think it's good. But it's just this delicate balance of trying to, retain what it is to be a dude
Yeah.
and what that
Yeah,
means.
yeah. It seems like it is changing, but it's true. Like we're trying to maintain that while still, I guess, benefiting from the benefits of being open. And
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
me and Leo were laughing a couple days ago because we saw a report or an article that said that if you use fire to cook or for whatever, if you use fire, you're a toxic masculine person. So I'm like,
You are a man and you use fire and you eat meat.
yeah, oh yeah, that
It's
was the other one.
like you're
Yeah,
flexing your toxic masculinity.
Who
yeah.
wrote? That's my question. Who wrote?
It was like a
Dang it, I don't know.
feminist. It was feminist group or something
Sure,
some.
man, they're just triggering you, bro. That's all. They're just trying to get you upset. I mean, the truth of the matter is like they go on a date with whoever they go on a date with, and they show up to a restaurant and they have that flame broiled fucking cheeseburger or flame broiled steak, or I'm sorry, they get some flame boiled oyster mushrooms. Like they're gonna.
I'm just scared that aside from all these made up allergies, the next thing is gonna be like, hey, I want a burger, but can you cook it on the electric grill? I want to, like it's gonna be an option now.
The truth of it is like the only reason why this stuff is so dangerous to folks is because giant corporations that want to make everybody's money pander to it, and the
Yeah,
giant corporations will sit there and go like, no, you're right, because we want to make all of your money. We
right,
want to
yeah,
get all that shit. And I think there's something really great about um family run or personally run or small run restaurants and food trucks. And I've firmly believed this. I've never believed that saying where people go, the customer's always right. I think the customer genuinely is an asshole. And I think that when you show up to someone's place, like if I went over to my neighbor's house that I'd never met before, I'd go over there and I'd go, would you like me to take my shoes off? Like you walk into the house and you look around and you're not just rummaging through their shit, and you're not like, hey, I don't like the way your furniture's set up. Can you move that chair over here for me? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
yeah.
you're being fucking polite. And I think the like corporations really shifted that where it was like customers always right because they want everybody's fucking money and they'll,
Yeah,
they'll
of course.
to get it. Whereas if you are someone that runs your own little spot and you're like, my house, my rules. I'm a great dude. My house, my rules. And be nice and say thank you and be my bud and
Yeah.
make it so that I enjoy cooking for you. And if you don't, get the fuck out of here. Like
That's what boggles my mind. Especially in a place like LA, as you can see, like there's so many options. Like you don't have to eat at a specific place, right? If your taste is something else, go to that other spot. Or if you want it to be cooked differently, go to that other spot, right? But people want to manipulate the menu that you already have set out, worked your ass off for, and they want to change it because they don't like whatever ingredient you're using. So yeah, it's
but
never
that
ending story.
but that's your business at that point. Unless you've got investors behind you that are like, we want all their money. Like if you don't
Right.
care, I think it's more powerful for you to just go like, all right, cool, don't eat here. Like
Right.
it's there is just this level of like, cool, don't eat here.
Yeah.
It. Like I'm not going to change my shit because you don't like it. Like you welcome to the spot. Everybody's coming here because they like this thing.
No.
Obviously, I'm doing it right. Your fucking dollar bill is not going to make or break my thing. And fuck you if you're a critic or someone that's going to go out there and try to ruin my business because you feel slighted because I didn't change the menu for you. You can go fuck yourself. Like there's something that needs to be said for these folks that ultimately are just doing this shit for clicks, right? That's how they make their money.
Yeah.
Controversy makes money, negativity makes money, right? So that's their move. They're out there on the hunt to make it hard for people because we all tune in. Like, how is I going to handle, this person showing up and telling him he's got to not cook with fire? You know what I mean? Fuck off. Like, it's get out of here. You know what I mean? The door shuts behind you. Get out. Bye.
Yep.
Yeah. That's my fucking rant.
Yeah,
It's
you're right.
amazing. It's true. You're right. Yeah.
The guest is always right.
Yeah.
No, no. I
Stay tuned
recently
for
read
episode 2. We'll refute everything he said now.
I recently read something that said the customer isn't always right, but they're still a customer.
Mhm.
So, like, you treat them with respect, but
Yeah, man.
it doesn't mean that you have to give the house away because they're unhappy with something.
Chances are, if you've decided, right, that you're going to spend every waking hour of your time prepping food and making food and testing recipes and testing flavors and doing that shit, chances are you give a shit about how people feel when they eat your food. Chances, right? Otherwise, you just buy some fucking chain, put a bunch of people in it, and be like, do the microwaves fire up? Cool, do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you're someone that like, I get so this is me ranting. I get so pissed off when I go to a taco truck, go to a taco truck, or go to a spot, and you have someone that's in line and they're a fucking asshole. Because I'm that guy that's standing behind them in line, going, "Hey, asshole! This poor son of a bitch has been up for 6 hours. They have been prepping this food and cutting those fucking onions that you're putting in your mouth since 3 a.m. Right? And it's fucking 5 p.m. This is how long it took them to get here, and you're handing them like $3 for that fucking taco. Like, give
Eat
me,
the onion.
yeah, get out of here. You're a piece of shit. Like, have some wherewithal, and
Well, we need more customers like you then, because we need people like that to be able to stand up to the customers that create problems.
We need to
dude,
bring them from the East Coast. That's the thing.
yeah,
These customers from the East Coast.
Hey, maybe there's a business in that. We should smuggle people from the East Coast.
well,
Well, we don't need to smuggle them. Never mind. Just
say all
bring them
East.
over.
I'm not going to say all East Coasters are cool people. I'm just saying, like you give
Okay,
a
so we'll create a filter. We'll create a filter.
I, just have the curiosity to be like, how does this done? How do you do this? Like anytime I hang out with somebody that makes me something or does something that I'm curious about, I go, how do you do this? And it isn't like, hey, give me your secrets or your
Yeah.
recipes. It's like, what went into this, man? Because obviously shit went into this that makes this fucking good. And you'll be surprised. I mean, dude, how many customers do you have that come up to you and go, how long did it take you to, did you kill this goat? Like, like, do they ask you questions all the time?
Yeah. All the time. And those are the customers that they're easy to love, right? And people that genuinely see the work and they want to know more about it, because tasting it and experiencing it is not enough, right? Then you get customers obviously that just because you put cilantro on it, the world ended. So,
Because
Tastes like
it tastes like soap to them.
tastes. Go to McDonald's, Like I think I'm sure they put a fuckload of sugar and everything over there. That's why you like it, right? You get a little toy box while you're there. Go to fucking.
Going back to your filmmaking, like, what is your directing style?
Style, meaning like how the technically style.
What's your approach? How do you direct people? How do you?
I'm always second guessing it. I'm always rethinking it. When I'm not directing, I'm watching things and I'm learning and I'm reading things. Like I just recently read this series of books on directing actors that were, I'll plug her, done by Judith Weston. They're really great books. And I read those and I realized that, I couldn't believe I called myself a director before that. And so you're just constantly leveling up. And unlike what we were talking about before, if you're going to make tacos, you're making tacos every day. You're probably doing 1,000 tacos every day. When you finally convince people to let you be a director, it's far and few between, and you are put into a situation where you have to learn quickly and do it. And so I'm always trying to build my skills through knowledge and everything and theories before I get in to do something. I'm very much a theory guy. Um, But then when I do it, it's like I said before, man, it's doing your homework. So you do homework and I shot list and storyboard and I draw all my own storyboards. I do that kind of physical homework, and I used to be a cinematographer, so I know cameras and I know that stuff, and that's a big part of my homework. And then I've been an editor and I know what I need for scenes, and that's a big part of my homework. And now I'm always prepping for actors, and it's not like I'm going to tell an actor what to do, but I'm always coming up with scenarios where like an actor like I had Peter Stormare on the show, who was the Russian astronaut from Armageddon. He was also the guy that fed the dude in the wood chipper in Fargo, the movie. Like,
Cool.
he's an actor you guys have seen a lot of.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was really great about describing his character for Fargo, where he said, all I did in every scene was I imagine that my character is just hungry and all he wants to do is finish killing people so that he can go have some pancakes, so he can go eat. And that was his motivation for everything. And so when you watch that movie now, you go, yeah, that dude's hungry. Like, that's what makes his stuff really fascinating. And so part of the homework is like coming up with shit like that, where you're asking questions and you're writing down questions that you'll ask actors if they find themselves in a tough situation. Like, I don't really know how I would do this. And it's like, well, what if before you got here to do this, you stood in line at the registry for 3 fucking hours and you got to the counter and they told you they couldn't give you your driver's license today. And then you had to do this. Like, how would you do this then? So you like are coming up with ways of communicating emotion.
The emotional state that they need to be in before they.
Yeah, so that it's directable. Instead of, you'll see a lot of like shitty directors or like young directors come in and go, "Can you just say that louder?" You know, and the actor's like, "What do you mean louder? Like, am I flamboyant about it? Am I no? Like, bring up the volume." And you're just like, "Fucking." And that's why you see a lot of real bad performances that aren't really the actor's fault. They're really the director's fault, coming in and just not knowing how to communicate.
Hmm.
You know? So anyway, I think I answered the question with
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Maybe.
With regards to like what the end product looks like and what you imagined it to look like, how close do you feel like you come to it?
Sometimes like I could show you my shots, my shot list or my storyboards for 12 cam, and you'll see a lot of them coming to fruition. You'll see like the framing being right, but there are so many variables. Like, right, like when you're thinking in your brain, there aren't any restrictions, right? There's no budget, there's no location problems, there's no air. Like all of that shit in your brain can never be identical to how you shoot it, never. And so then when you sort of accept that, then you realize that early on you're kind of doing like broad strokes where you're like, I think there'll be 3 guys in this shot, right? And it's like, I think I'm going to shoot this from a low angle up high on these guys to make them look better. Okay, that's cool. Um, but that's all I'm going to think about. And then, so then when you show up and you're building it with these people that you're collaborating with, and the wardrobe person comes in and she's like, you should put this red scarf on them. And you're just like, okay, that's cool. And then you start to build this thing. And then you get into the edit room, which really is where movies are made, is in the edit room, right? Because when you write something, it's all imaginary. And then you go to produce something and everybody's telling you why they can't do that thing that you wanted. So you're making concessions consistently. And then you're on set and you're trying to make the most out of what you have. You're like, well, I asked for 40 people and I have 5. So how do I do all right? And so then you're trying to do that shit. And then when you get into the edit room, you sit down and you look at all these clips and your heart breaks and you go, oh fuck, you know, because it's not what you thought it was going to be. And then you go, all right, you have to get over that. And then you start to make something out of what you have. And so then you start to put these pieces together, and then suddenly you go, man, that red scarf was a fucking great idea. And so then you're putting all this shit in line, and you go, ah, fuck, and then it gets really exciting, and then you put music under it, and you go, ah, and it becomes really fucking exciting. And then afterwards, you know, you're doing a Q&A or an interview, and they're like, so the red scarf meaning the child's, the inner child speaking out of him, like, wow, that was so genius. And director, yeah, 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 yeah. That was always my fucking idea. Yeah, but the truth is that we're just making choices. Who gives a fuck? you know.
That's hilarious. Because I do tie a lot of meaning to certain movies. I'm like, oh, is that why they did this? That's probably why. And then I just go off on that.
Mm.
And
Sometimes,
it's the
some,
wardrobe.
sometimes it is. Most of the time, it's not. And the rule of thumb is when a fan comes up to you and says, "Hey, man, when I watched that movie, it felt like you were talking about this and this," and you go, "Yep." That's generally what you do every time. They go, "I knew it." You go, "Yep," because even if they're not right, I don't want to change their experience. I don't
Yeah.
want them to come up to me and go,
Oh,
"Hey,
okay.
I was feeling this," and I go, "No, you're completely fucking wrong." And they'll go, "Oh, oh, oh," you know.
Hmm.
Oh, I like that. I like that. You don't want to change their experience because, yeah, that makes total sense. Like, I think, did I ruin Tool for you, Leo? When I explained that Maynard was
Yeah.
more of a comedian, I did ruin it for you.
Yeah, you ruined it
What
completely.
was the? What was the? How did you ruin Tool?
So, so Maynard says that when he writes the songs, it's just what he feels. There's no real meaning to it.
Yeah,
And oftentimes Tool fans tend to tie so much meaning to each song, and they go off on all these crazy theories. And he's like, at the end of the day, I'm a comedian. I like to fuck around with people, and I do things on purpose just to mess with people, just to see what they're gonna think. And
yeah.
there's no real, meaning to it. And so I told that to Leo, and he was like, "No, don't say that."
Well, when you hear that the drummer takes the time to make a drum line to the Fibonacci freaking sequence and all that, and then Maynard just comes in like, "Nah, I was just messing around." It's like,
Yeah.
what?
But I just saw them. I saw them play live last year, and when you go see Tool, Maynard intentionally is
Yeah,
like on at the front. He's in the back.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
not even lit. He's
yeah,
all the way in the back. And when you go see them play, it's the rhythm section that really is the star of the
yeah,
fucking performance. Where you go, man, these guys are the shit. And then Maynard comes in, he's like, "Well, no, no, no," and he's singing in the back. Who gives a fuck? It's the guys that are doing
yeah.
the support
So,
that make that band.
so when you say that you don't want to ruin the viewer's experience,
Mm-hmm.
who do you write for? Like, are you writing for yourself, or do you write with the intention of creating an experience and then?
Both. Yeah, I mean, you have to start. If I'm not writing for myself first, and I've tried not to, if I'm not writing for myself first, then it's just you can't connect with it. And if there's something coming in that I haven't written, or if there's something coming through that is more corporate, I have to find something in that thing that I relate to. And then that becomes my obsession. So it has to be something that I like. Because if I don't fucking like it, you sure shit aren't going to like it. So there has to be something there that I connect to. And for me, it's usually I'm obsessed with stupid shit. I'm obsessed with like right now I'm listening to the audiobook for Michael Mann's Heat 2. So the original Heat that we talked about.
Yeah,
He wrote a book called Heat 2, and the book is so fucking cool because it goes into details of how criminals do things while they're doing them. So, like, there's this guy that's got to cut into the phone lines, right? And so he writes the details of how he uses the shimmy shit to get up the pole. And I love all that stuff, like the clips and all that shit. And he's like, I have to get up the pole this way. He opens the box and then he talks specifically about using a voltmeter and how like a phone line has specific volts if it's connected and if it doesn't. All those details are really fucking cool to me. And so obviously when you see 12 cam and you see my movies, I'm very much into that kind of shit. Maybe it's because I worked with my hands for so long, but that stuff usually pulls me in. It's not the twist, you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's not I'm more focused on bringing an audience into a weird world with shit that they don't know much about. Strangely, after we talked about it, probably me also going like, "Hey, how about you ask how phones work instead of just yelling that it doesn't fucking work."
Yeah.
Um, I got off on a tie right here, but um, where did we root from? What was the original question?
Uh,
Oh,
Writing for yourself versus for.
Yeah, so I need those things in there for me to be fucking pumped.
Mhm.
And then I also keep the audience in mind. Like I'm an older brother. I like to give my. I used to love to scare the shit out of my younger siblings. There's a rush
Yeah.
that you from that, and so I'm always keeping the audience in mind. Like, how are they feeling right now? What are they going through right now? Where do I want them to be? Um, that's very important. And then if you're a smart business person, you're always like, how do I market this? Like, how is this something that's interesting to someone that is cynical and someone that just wants to go see, 50 fucking superheroes smash into each other? Like, how do I make this something that people want to see?
I love it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love it, and I could see the attention to detail in that film. Uh,
Thanks, man.
yeah, I love those tight shots. And then all the questions like what I was as I was watching, I was constantly asking like, what is that? Why are they doing that? And then of course you do sort of answer it as you go along, right? I love films like that. And then in the end, you're like, wait, what was that? But it keeps you thinking. I hate when people go like, oh, that was a dumb ending. It's like, no, think a little bit, think about it. Why did it end that way? Like I often tell people about my one of my favorite films is The Fountain by Darren Aronofsky.
Darren Aronofsky, great,
Aronofsky.
yeah, great movie.
Love that, right? And you go online and you'll see dozens of people just with their theories, with their own like, no, it's because this Tom is doing this and like it tanked. It didn't even do that great in the box office, but then later on it became like
Yep,
a cult film, right?
yep. And I mean, those are the movies that we remember, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Those are the movies that we're obsessed with are the ones that like we continue to ask questions. And the the DVD market, the videotape market really made a lot of those movies possible because the audience was just like rewind them over and over and over and over and over again. And really the viewing experience for them became almost a tradition within itself. I mean, that's why Star Wars is fucking massive. It became the thing that they do, or Rocky Horror Picture Show, or like any of these movies where the the act of like trying to figure this out, or the act of wanting to live in that world, uh, is more powerful than the fucking plot,
Yeah.
right?
Wanting to live in that world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dang.
yeah. I mean, dude,
Dang.
I wanted to be with the Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to open the business. I wanted to be at the fire station with them. There's there's a world that I would make a whole series that was just a procedural out of that fire station because that's all I wanted to do. Is like, what kind of weird tech are these guys making, and how are they doing this shit? And there are a bunch of custodians that are running around with ghost pets. That stuff to me is so fucking cool. But that's just my obsession with it, and that's because that movie was kind of open ended as far as the world was concerned. It didn't answer all the questions. It left room for me to fill in those blanks with an even cooler story. Um,
You think
you
obsession is something that someone has to have in order to work on their, I don't know, on their.
I mean, dude, I mean, do you have to be obsessed to be a musician?
I, I do. I obsess about a song over and over and over and over again, even if I'm not going to play it or I have no intention of playing it. It's just I love. I often find myself thinking like, I wish there was some machine that I can put on this musician's head to see how they see music. Because even though we're talking about like auditory, they're seeing something. Like
Yeah,
you can hear that they're seeing something. Or I'll find myself like I'll do like a little experiment where I sit and with my headphones and I'm listening and I pretend that I'm sitting in the middle of the musicians and listening to the music just wrap around me and take me, and then also obsessing about the different layers of what the bass is trying to tell me and what the guitar is trying to tell me and
yeah,
the lyrics and all that. And so it's I don't know, I don't know if it's the same with film, like for you is like to create a film, but like to work with all those different layers and how much of it is intentional and how
yeah,
much the audience brings to that.
yeah, dude, 100%. I like it. I think of I love music, and music is such an important part of films. It's just such an important part of films. Like it is music is the ultimate cheat code, right? Like if I want you to cry, right? It really doesn't matter what I'm showing you. I just have to get some strings. I got to get something in there that makes you fucking cry, or like a swell,
Haunting.
like it's cheating, but it's the craft, And so I'm fascinated. You were talking Tool, right? I when I was when I started doing music videos, I was a big. I don't know if you guys know who Killswitch Engage is,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
and okay. So when I started doing music videos, I was prior to that a huge Killswitch Engage fan, and I loved them. I loved their sound. I loved what they did, and when I listened to their albums, I had no connection anything other than like their music videos and just what I pictured when I listened to them and how that worked. And in my imagination, I would picture what they were like in the room recording together. I would picture what they were singing about. I would picture all the emotional context of it. I loved that.
Mhm.
Then when I worked with them, I met them. I met each one of them and we did so many music videos together and live things and all that shit. So now I know how, you know, Adam starts to play his guitar. I now know what Jesse does right before that. I've been in the space and I now know what the collaboration of those things are, and it's different. I don't think it's better. I think it's different. I'm kind of like I'm in the kitchen with you, so I kind of know how the food's made.
Mm.
And with Tool, I never worked with them, and I'm happy I didn't, because with Tool, when I listen to like 46 and 2, or if I listen to any of that Anima album, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Or Anima? That's it.
Enema. Enema.
And like anything on that fucking thing, it just like like the fucking like bass comes in, and then all of a sudden my world just gets black, and like just like and there's just this place that you go, boom, 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 and like every time I'm listening to it, I'm seeing different things wherever I am in my life at that point. But there's just this consistency of, and I fucking love that shit, man. And I don't want to know that they're using some sort of distortion or they're doing something. It's like, but my buddy is super into beer and he's like, hey, man, we should get nerdy about beer sometime. I go, no. And he goes, "Why?" I don't want to know about it. I love it so much. I'm that asshole that'll fucking pick a beer out because the label's cool. I don't want to know hops. I don't want to know that shit. I
The
just,
strain of yeast.
yeah, I want to just, that label's rad. Like that's how I want to enjoy it. I think there's a power to that. There's an innocence to that where when you're obsessed, you have to be obsessed. If you're going to make these things, you have to be fucking obsessed with like every technique and every little trick and every move. You need to, because otherwise you're wasting your time, right? You're just kind of playing with it. It's a hobby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like even when I cook here, I'm not cooking for clients, but I'm fucking obsessed with like how I cut things and how I do things and like the vibe I put myself in when I make it. That's important to me.
Yeah.
But I don't want that for everything. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like
Yeah. That
sometimes,
would be exhausting.
Okay.
yeah,
Speaking of which, speaking of exhaustion, like that leads us to like burnout, right?
yeah.
We just work and work and work and work, and then eventually we get to that point where we burn out. What do you typically do when you get to that point?
I crash. Like, I'm trying to be healthier about it.
Mhm.
Prior to this, very much a dude thing, right? You just like my whole mentality was always like, you put your head down, you bust your ass.
Mm.
So like, I got some shit to do. I got a to-do list to do. I'm going to put my head down and get everything on this fucking to-do list. And like, there's a sense of accomplishment that I'll have if I get all of it done. And if I get more than all of it done, then I'm like, fuck yeah. And I hold myself to a specific standard with everything I do, which is kind of psychotic, where it's just like, hey, I'm going to, put all these things in this fucking closet. All right, boom. I'm going to do this quickly. I'm going to give myself amount of time. Blah, blah, blah. What that does is it just burns you the fuck out. Like you just like are constantly running with nitrous. You know what I mean? You're constantly in that mode. And so the older you get, because I'm in my mid 40s now, so the older you get, the more your knees hurt, the more your fucking arms hurt, the more your body sort of shits out on you. You know, you go out and you do a night of drinking, and it takes 2 days to recover from that drinking session,
Yeah.
and so you just start to fucking crash, man. And I would crash, and I still do. I will crash so fucking hard. Sometimes I've gotten sick. You just fucking plummet, and especially when you're doing movies, because it's like such a build, such a high. I think it's similar to when you're a rock star on stage and you're touring and you're at that fucking peak and everything's firing, and then you finish it or it's you lose it, and then you just fucking plummet. And so these days we're trying to be healthier about it. I'm trying to have other things that I'm obsessed with, other things that are more healthy in my daily life that I'm pumped about doing. So that way, when I do finally plummet out of it, I also have something else to jump onto, which is unrelated and kind of healthy. And then you're because then what happens is you plummet hard, you're exhausted, and then you stay exhausted for too long, and then you get depressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're in a depression, and you're like, "Fuck, how do I get myself out of this depression?"
Yeah.
Um, so
So you set yourself up with something else so you can sort of at least have a soft landing.
yeah, or something else that, like if I was going to finish out a movie or if I'm going to finish out a project, it's almost better for me to say, all right, cool. I'm going to crash out and sleep tonight, but tomorrow I'm doing a barbecue and I'm
Yeah.
having like fucking 8 people over, and we're going to fucking smoke some meats. And because then at that point, you're sort of easing out of it. And then you wrap out that barbecue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It isn't as fucking hard. You're just
Yeah.
like, still using some of the stuff that you were using before. And then I think it's important to surround yourself with people. Like I'm one of those dudes that needs recharge. Like, so there are times where I need to be the fuck away from everybody, including my fiance. Like there are times when I'm like, leave me the fuck alone. But if I'm in there too long, then it's not good. So I find that if I have people around me that are doing exciting things, even after I'm done, right? Because the thing that sucks about all of this is that you're hot shit until you're done, and then when you're done, you're unemployed. You're done. You're finished, and so you
Yeah.
have to start all over again, and you have to build something new all over again. Um, we talk about this a lot on my show, and we talk about this with a lot of different people because this is something that people don't talk about. This isn't.
Yeah.
This isn't
That
on. You know.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because one of the issues that I have is I procrastinate with projects sometimes because
Yep.
if psychologically, if I finish this project, then I have nothing. So then I prolong finishing the project until I get my hands on another project, and then I'm struggling because I'm like trying to finish this project as quickly as I can so I can get the next one started, and I feel like I don't give it my all. But I just recently figured that out about myself.
Dude, that's a real thing, man. It's a real thing, and you brought up good points, right? Because the problem solver is like, all right, hey, well, the move is when I'm doing another project, I'm also planning my next project, and so I'm
Yeah.
I'm trying to do both those. But then there's this excitement level and radar of excitement where it's just like I want to make sure that my excitement is wrapping this one out
Yeah.
before I get too excited about the next one. So it's a very difficult juggling thing.
Yeah, it is.
It
You know?
is. Any future projects? Anything that you want to let us know or we're allowed to know?
So, um, so the movie that you guys were talking about, 12 Cam, the only way you can see that movie is if you write to me on Instagram at Mike Pecci and give me your 3 favorite horror movies. If I agree with you, then you can get a link. That's the only way you can see 12 Cam. I just finished a new movie called Come Home, which is really great. We were just in Film Quest Film Festival. I won Best Director there. We were nominated for a bunch of stuff.
Congratulations.
Nice.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Yeah,
And so that just came out. That's not released to the public yet, but that's still doing the film festival circuits. And then,
But we'd be able to watch it.
yeah, you guys want to link it. Uh, and then what else are we fucking doing? Podcasting like crazy. So my show is called In Love with the Process. You can find that on Apple Podcasts, whatever the fuck you use to get your podcast stuff. I also have a second show called Love Sandwiches, which you would like. which
Ooh.
is essentially, I believe that the perfect food is some form of a sandwich. And I think that the ultimate form of love is to make somebody a sandwich. And it doesn't matter what kind of fucking sandwich. Like if you're going to make someone a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and you spread that peanut butter to every fucking corner and you make sure the jam is on there right, you cut that bread out, like you
And
slide that.
it has to be crunchy peanut butter.
Yeah,
If not, they don't love you.
I'm into that. I used to take spicy peanuts and throw them in there too, man.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
Okay.
like, but that's a sandwich. It's a way to express how you feel. Like it's, you take a girl home one night, you guys spend the night together. The best thing in the world is you make her a breakfast sandwich the next day. So like, the show's about that. We talk about your favorite sandwich, the sandwich that changed your life, what your mom packed for you in your lunch, like the emotional context of sandwiches. And we're about to do a third podcast, which we'll be announcing in the new year as well. So
Okay.
Oh man, you're busy, dude.
stupidly overwhelmed. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. If you are dumb and you want to get into the film business, what are three pieces of advice that you would give
Yeah.
for someone that's, I don't know, maybe going into college or not going to college or wherever they may be at?
A couple things. One, I would say before you decide to go to school, um, go PA, go assist, go on a job and do it. Because and PA, personal assistance on a film set, is the best way to learn everything about everything. And news flash, you don't need a fucking degree. Like there isn't, like I don't go in to pitch a movie and the guy, the studio exec goes, "This is a great movie, but do you have your diploma?" Like no one gives a fuck. And the truth is that school is kind of a fucking ripoff when it comes to our business, because what'll happen is this: you'll go to school, you'll spend fucking $45,000 a year, you'll walk out of there with all sorts of debt, and then you're going to be thrust into a business that requires you to work for free and work discounted for so long, because it really is a who you know and how you get in and what you do. So if you've got this overwhelming debt behind you, and
Mm.
then you have to ask yourself, what are you going to learn in that fucking school anyways? Is that the same shit that you're going to learn by just spending a few afternoons on YouTube and doing the research and how to work a camera and doing all that stuff? And then how about you tell your parents, instead of spending $45,000 a year for me to go to that school, give me 20 grand and let me go make a film with my friends. And because the actual act of making a film, you'll learn more than you ever will at film school. I'm not saying film school is not great for certain people. Like if you live out in the middle of nowhere, if you're out in fucking like Madison, Wisconsin, if you're out, in Kansas, and there is no film community and there are no people there, then film school is great for you, because then you can go and be embedded and have room and board and go live with these folks that will become your friends and you'll probably know for the rest of your career. That's great, man. But you also could just take 20 grand and go get an apartment in Los Angeles or New York City or somewhere, or Atlanta, or some spot that has a film community, and then go PA. And because the chances are you'll eventually start to get paid. So you'll probably get paid to learn on top of that. So I would say that that's the most important thing. Before you decide to go to film school, go physically work on it. If you're over 18, you can get on a fucking film set. So go work on something. Second, listen to my show. I mean, and I'm not being an asshole about it. It's just that we talk to everybody on the show from every walk of the film business's life. And so like if you're like, I don't know if I want to be a director, what's it like to be a key grip, or what's it like to be a sound mixer or sound engineer? There are so many careers in our business that don't get the limelight that are fucking awesome jobs, and they're great things to be a part of. And so listen to the show, because we talk to as many of those people as possible. Was that how many was I supposed to
That
do?
was two. I think that was two.
Which, however many you have.
He promised three. No, just
Well, three. All right. So then three, do yourself a favor if you want to make movies. watch more than just Disney Plus. Uh, get your hands on a Criterion subscription and go back and force yourself to watch the classics and the movies that are in black and white. And I know you're like, ugh, I don't like to watch black and white. Fuck off, first off. But then go back and watch the movies that started to develop the language that is used to make movies.
Ooh.
And if you go back and you look at that language in its purest form, then you'll be inspired by the core element of it, and you'll make something that people will then go, this came out of nowhere and it's so fucking amazing. It doesn't look like some Disney show. And it's like, yeah, that's because I went back and studied where this shit came from. And turns out most TV shows fucking ignore all that stuff now. So if I even do a piece of that, then suddenly I'm A24's new fucking genius. I went back and studied the classics. You know what I mean?
Awesome. Wow. Well, thank you so much, man, for taking the time to speak to us and to share all these stories with us. Hopefully somebody out there is inspired to be crazy and obsess over something.
I'm completely appreciative. I had a lot of fun. My only complaint is where are my fucking tacos?
They're in Pasadena.
They're in Pasadena. I think we should be close to you, right?
Yeah, you're not that far. Not that far.
There you go.
You're invited.
There you go.
After
we
January
open back up. We open back up January 3rd. So
Fuck
you're
yeah.
invited for free. You don't ever have to pay.
Dude, I'm going to show up. It doesn't matter. That's not what I'm asking. I just want to eat.
No, but what I want to tell you is your family, man. Even though we're supposed to hang out, I don't know how many times we haven't, but I owe you that. So you've always been on my mind. You're like on top of the list, but I haven't gone to that damn list.
It's official. It's Primo Mike.
There you go, Primo Mike. There you go.
I appreciate all of it, fellas. Thank you so much.
Awesome, man.
All right,
Thank you,
thanks.
man.